As you get down to the bottom of your weaving, you may think, oh, this is the bottom, it's close enough. But this little gap is actually gonna make your piece look pretty bad. You've gotta go as many rows as possible, all the way to the very base, even squeezing up extra tight if you need to. The more rows you can put in at the very bottom to fill it all up, the better your weaving will look when you take it off the loom. So when we take it off, there's this little gap of where they loop around these teeth that has to be filled. As you're doing the last rows, it definitely is a lot harder. Sometimes I'll do just a couple, stop, and then do the other ones. That can be a little bit easier, or even just one at a time. Not using a needle at the very end is almost impossible to do. So definitely recommend using a needle for these last couple rows to fill it all the way in, getting as many as you can. One direction always tends to be a little bit easier than the other. And again, if you just keep pushing it up, when you take it off, you can spread it out a little bit, but the tighter it is here, the better. So keep going all the way. Be careful that you don't accidentally weave through your white. Like if you see right here, I've gone through the white. Be careful, that'll make your life harder later. So take your time making sure you're weaving above or below that white warp strand. Where did that come from? There we go. Couple more and I should be good. Now the last thing to think about as I'm doing these last couple rows here is what side I need to end on. If I flip my loom over, there's going to be a tail for the white warp. I want to make sure that my string ends on the same side as the tail. So I need to make sure mine ends over here so that way I can tie the two together. So I have to do at least one more, probably going to do 3 more to get over and back one last time. Be careful that you still don't pull too tight on the edges. All right, I think one last row back should do it for me. All right, so I've ended on the same side as my tail. So I'm gonna take my needle off. I'm gonna untape my tail and bring it to the front. So I want to tie my white warp and my colored weft, 2 tails together. Now I want to tie them pretty close to the bottom of the loom with just a little bit of gap. Because when we take it off the loom, these ones are going to have a little bit of space, so I want to make sure this one has a little bit of space. So I'm going to make my loop, 2 tails under and up through the hole, one tail that's a lot longer. And as I tighten, I want to try to place it right at kind of where these other ones are ending. So not quite all the way up, but pretty close. Yeah, I think that could be good. I'm gonna wait to fully tighten it until it's completely off the loom. To take it off the loom, I want to very gently flex the board. So that means getting it to bend just a little. And when I do that, I can pull my weaving and just pop them off the ends. We wanna try to make sure I don't bend these teeth. With a little bit of a flex, there's enough stretch, they pop off. Now that's all the way off, I can fully tighten this one so you see how they all end together. I'm gonna take my tails, cut them off, again, as always, leaving about 1 centimeter. The last step before we take it completely off the loom is the very top. Now chances are I have done this step for you, but in case you need to, there is a wooden stick and you literally just weave it across the very top, over, under, over, under, over, under. And then your tail from the top side, I've already done this, so I've untaped it, flipped it over, and I tied that tail onto the stick. Now this can be a challenge, so don't be afraid to ask for help if need be. Okay, tied it on, trimmed off the excess. Now that that's secured, I can slide my weaving off the top of here. Now I like to stretch out my weaving a little bit so it pushes right up against the stick. This will help keep it a bit more secure. So kind of spreading it out. All my knots are the back side. If I flip it over, there is my front. If I see a knot on this side, I want to just poke it through to the back. So I want to make sure that one side has all the knots and the other side is nice and smooth. There we go. All right. Last thing I want to do here is add a string to the stick on both sides. So this is the string we're going to hang it from. So all you do is you wrap it around the stick and you tie a knot. It can be whatever color you want. Tie one knot and tie a second knot. So you want to make sure these don't slide off. I'll even add a drop of glue to these later, but 2 knots, other side, wrap around the stick, 1 knot, oh, come on. Tie these just like shoelaces, tie it tight, and second knot, tie it tight. Trim off any excess, just like every other step. Now you have the ability to hang your loom. The last step is to add the tassels. That will be on the one final video. So find out how to add the tassels at the very bottom in the other video.